Welcome back to this explainer. Today, we're tackling what is quite literally the ultimate puzzle facing business leaders and managers everywhere. How do you actually motivate your employees to hit organizational goals? I mean, it sounds simple on paper, right? But as anyone who's ever managed a team knows firsthand, human motivation is just incredibly complex.
Look, think about it. Have you ever seen a company dump thousands, maybe even millions of dollars into this mysterious black box of new incentives or cash bonuses, only to watch the whole thing completely fizzle out? Or worse, you get that classic free pizza party effect, where it totally backfires and just breeds widespread resentment. It happens all the time. Management designs the shiny new reward, expects a very specific result, and instead, they're left with a disconnected, frustrated, or completely misaligned workforce.
So, to map the anatomy of a truly successful system, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the motivation puzzle, introduce the dual role framework, break down activating and directing effort, look at how it works in action, and finally, show you how to fix your own systems. Let's get into it.
All right, Section 1, the employee motivation puzzle. Let's look at why trying to inspire a team often feels like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in the dark.
This universal dilemma we all face is actually captured perfectly by a 2003 insight from management scholar Jeffrey Sprinkle. He pointed out that management accounting really serves two main roles. One, providing information for planning, and two, motivating individuals. Now let's be honest, companies are generally fantastic at that first part, the planning, the data, the spreadsheets. But that second part, actually motivating people, that is hands down the hardest, most misunderstood piece of the whole puzzle. We just constantly get the human element wrong.
And that brings us right to Section 2, the dual role framework. This is the systematic research that was designed to finally fix these broken incentive systems. Okay, so here is the crucial takeaway. This brilliant conceptual tool was developed by Professors Jasmine Bohl and Serena Loftus. Through their incredibly rigorous research, Professors Bohl and Loftus built the dual role framework, and it's essentially the master key to unlocking that management black box we were just talking about. Instead of just looking at what a specific bonus is, their breakthrough research asks why it's effective or why it totally fails by looking at how it actually rewires employees' psychology and behavior.
And they break the whole thing down using this really intuitive concept. It's kind of like driving a high-performance sports car. A successful management control system absolutely has to do two distinct things. First, it has to activate effort. Think of this as your roaring engine, the gas pedal slammed to the floor. It's what gets the employee moving and eager to expend raw energy. But as you know, a massive engine is incredibly dangerous if you can't control where the car is going, right? So the second role is directing effort. This is your precise steering wheel. It makes sure all that activated raw energy is actually channeled directly toward the organization's specific goals.
So let's look under the hood. Section 3, activating employee effort. We really need to understand this engine.
Now, Professors Bohl and Loftus identified that expectancy theory is what drives this activation. Basically, employees work to maximize their own satisfaction and earn rewards. But what really makes their research a total game changer is that they mapped out exactly what those rewards are. And spoiler alert here, it is about so much more than just a paycheck. They pinpointed 6 unique activators: extrinsic, self-cognitive, status, pro-social, affiliative, and intrinsic rewards.
So how does this actually play out in real life? Like we said, it's not just about cash, which, by the way, is your classic extrinsic reward. Imagine an employee volunteering to stay late just to mentor a new hire. That right there is pro-social activation. They're getting a genuine positive feeling from helping someone else. Or maybe someone is just grinding to win Employee of the Month. That's status activation. They want to compare favorably to their peers. Then you've got self-cognitive rewards. You know that feeling when you push yourself just to feel a sense of personal competence and pride? That's what that is. Affiliative rewards kick in when someone is driven by the sheer joy of belonging to an organization's shared culture. And finally, intrinsic activation. That's when the task itself is just fundamentally fun to do. The brilliant thing Professors Bohl and Loftus point out is that a single management control might trigger 3 of these at once, or it might completely miss the ones you actually need.
Which is a perfect segue into Section 4, directing employee effort. Because, again, all that raw motivation, totally useless without a steering wheel.
The research lays out 3 strict, non-negotiable conditions that you have to meet to channel that effort into real organizational goals. First up is understanding. An employee might be super motivated, but if leadership hasn't communicated the strategy clearly, they literally won't know which actions actually move the needle. Second is capabilities. Do they actually have the skills, the resources, the time? You can't steer a car if the steering column is snapped in half. And third, and this one is huge, is preferences. The system has to make sure the employee actually wants to do the desired action over the alternatives. For example, if you tell your sales team that customer service is the absolute top priority, but you only pay commissions based on rapid, high-volume sales, that is a massive preference misalignment. The employee is going to steer toward the volume every single time, totally ignoring your corporate messaging.
Let's take all of this from theory to practice in Section 5, the framework in action.
When we zoom out and look at the overarching model developed by Bohl and Loftus, the entire system just clicks right into place. Over on the left, you've got your management controls, your bonuses, your performance reviews, your corporate culture. Those feed straight into the center, triggering those psychological engines we talked about, the 6 activating rewards and the 3 directing processes. And finally, on the right, those center processes result in your actual, tangible organizational objectives. What is so powerful about this is that it gives us a diagnostic tool. If an objective is failing on the right side, we can trace it backward through the center to see exactly which psychological process our control on the left failed to trigger. It's basically a magnifying glass for management.
To see just how insanely effective this diagnostic tool is, let's look at a really fascinating real-world conflict in academic research. 2 very similar management studies asked the exact same question. Do employees perform better when given a cash bonus or a tangible non-cash reward, like merchandise or a gift card? Well, a 2009 study by Jeffrey found absolutely 0 difference between the two. Cash and merchandise completely tied. But a 2017 study by Kelly and colleagues found that tangible merchandise easily, hands down, beat cash. 2 studies, same question, totally different answers. So who's right? For years, this contradiction just baffled people. Let's apply the Bohl and Loftus framework to solve it. If we map out Jeffrey's 2009 study, we see that the experimental task was just a private word game. Because it was totally private and isolated, the only engines firing were extrinsic, the desire for the prize itself, and intrinsic, just the basic enjoyment of playing a word puzzle. Because the reward setup only triggered those 2 very basic activators, cash and tangible goods performed exactly the same. There was no extra juice, so to speak.
But now, watch how this shifts in the 2017 Kelly study. The Bohl and Loftus framework reveals a massive difference in the system's design. Kelly's study didn't just offer rewards, it provided relative performance feedback. They actually told people how they were doing compared to everybody else. By making the performance social and public, this system suddenly activated status rewards. You know, the desire to look good in front of your peers, and self-cognitive rewards, the pride of seeing your name at the top of a leaderboard. And it turns out when you tie tangible merchandise to status and public pride, it creates a wildly stronger emotional pull than just quietly direct depositing cash into a bank account. This framework beautifully explains the contradiction, just by showing us exactly which psychological engines were actually firing.
Which leads us perfectly to our final section, Section 6, Fixing Your Control System. How can you actually use this blueprint starting today?
Well, you can stop making these expensive, totally ineffective management mistakes by treating this framework as your ultimate checklist. Step 1, map your current controls. Literally write down every bonus, every culture-building event, every review process you have. Step 2, diagnose them. Go through each one and ask, which of the 6 activating engines does this actually spark? And which of the 3 directing processes does it satisfy? Step 3 is identifying the clashes. For instance, maybe you're hiring people who are heavily driven by intrinsic and affiliative rewards. They genuinely love the work and the team culture, but your strict micromanaging monitoring systems are just completely crushing that intrinsic joy. You literally have controls fighting against each other. You need them to complement one another to drive real, sustainable performance.
So I want to leave you with this thought. Look at your own organization this week through the groundbreaking lens provided by Professors Bohl and Loftus, and ask yourself a really honest question. Are your company's controls just randomly mashing the gas pedal and hoping for the best, or are they actually steering your team towards success? Understanding that difference isn't just some academic exercise, it is absolutely the key to unlocking human potential in your workplace. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go take a hard look at your own control systems today.